So I wanted to show how you can make those really big detuned sounding risers that you can hear in tracks like Drugs from Amsterdam by MauP, Red Light by Swedish House Mafia, and lastly, one of my favorites, A Drug from God by Chris Lake.
Power, beauty, fame, choose your weapon.
And that sound that I'm talking about is that riser that's like slowly increasing in pitch. The note sounds like really lazy, but it sounds like absolutely massive. Let's take a look and try and build one from scratch. To start out, I just created a new MIDI channel. I threw SHM on there and I just drew an F note. F is the root note of my track. I definitely recommend when you're building out like effects elements or atmosphere elements, you work either in the root note of your key. So in my case, F minor, I'm going to be using F, or like the fifth is also good. So in this case, it would be C. Those two tend to work harmonically well with like whatever's going on in the rest of the track. But anyways, I have the F a little bit shorter than a quarter note drawn in on the third count of every bar. So this is what we have. While we're in the MIDI clip, I'm just going to head down to the envelope section and we're going to automate the pitch so that it increases in pitch over time. Set a point here and then let's just go up to like 2000 or something. Let's see how that sounds. Cool. And we can always adjust that to our taste later. So that's it for the MIDI stuff for now. Let's hop over to Serum. This is what I have. So really basic. It's one voice of unison. I'm using one oscillator and it's a saw wave. And this is the sound envelope that we're going to be using for this riser. So feel free to just copy these settings. The second thing that's important is I have an LFO shape drawn in on LFO1 here. So this is what it looks like. It's set to trigger, BPM, and anchor, and then quarter note to start out. But we're going to be automating this a little bit later. And I've copied the LFO shape here to modulate the cutoff. One thing that I should mention as well is that I've increased the bend range on Serum up to 12. 12 just gives me a little bit more flexibility to work with. Moving over to the effects, which is really where this sound is like brought to life. First thing we're going to do is add some dimension, right? We want to give it some space and spread out between the left and right speakers and start to sound big. These are the settings I have. Feel free to just copy those. And then this is what we have now. We're on our way. Next thing I added was a little bit of distortion, just to give it a little bit more character and a little bit more edge. And then really importantly, we have reverb next. I have it set to Hall. We want this to sound huge and like it's just in this massive, massive space. So these are the settings I have. I guess the important one, decay, is really long. It's at 5.4 seconds. Right now, it's really starting to sound closer to it. I added a little bit of EQ just to filter out some of the low end. And then the last thing that we're going to do is automate a couple of parameters to give it a little bit more dynamic. So the first one is going to be release. So that's this right here. And I'm just going to increase that over time. So the note feels like it's kind of getting longer as the build progresses. Next one's going to be the cutoff. So that's this parameter right here. And we're going to do a similar thing where it's just going to increase a little bit over the course of the build. Start a little bit lower. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to automate the LFO rate. And this was something that was in specifically like in the MauP track. So let's increase this over time as well. And this is what we have.
Give you up, never gonna give you up.